Hey up, Furies. So this video was not going to happen because I was on a spaceship to Alpha Centauri to help capture the heart of a star to power our new Death Sun that was capable of destroying planets. It's our new super weapon for conquering the galaxy. Doesn't that feel a little bit derivative? What? No, what could that possibly be derivative of? The point is, I had to come back and we had to reschedule our board meeting discussing the epidemic of the new neighbor's slinky cat that has been invading our territory.
It's a real issue.
Because there has been news.
There has been news?
That's right, Bridezilla. I was kind of planning to give videos a break because I'm going into exams and things are getting pretty stressful, but then DreamWorks decided to drop a bunch of new art, a promotional poster, the fact that they're releasing a trailer soon, and a whole possibly lists of the songs in the soundtrack. Not quite sure. But I needed to make a video about it. This tells us a huge amount about the third How to Train Your Dragon movie and confirms a number of theories that we've had as a community about it. First up, the promotional poster. It looks like this. It features Hiccup in the center with Toothless to the left and yes, a white Night Fury to the right. The whole thing is set against a colourful backdrop of an underground cavern covered in crystals. Let's unpack this. Firstly, as we discussed in our last How to Train Your Dragon video, the subtitle for the movie is The Hidden World. If you would like to know more about what that might possibly mean, as well as a discussion of the synopsis that we have, as well as a bunch of clues and quotes from the director and writers, then click the link up in the corner of the screen to go watch that. That'll give you a much more in-depth discussion of what that all might mean. But essentially, I believe we know two things about the Hidden World. Number one, this is going to be where they find the other Night Fury. And number two, at the end of the movie, I believe that the dragons are going to leave Berk and the archipelago, and this Hidden World is where they are going to go, to hide from the humans who have a tendency to, you know, kill them. Now, I theorized in my last video that I think it's more likely that it's, say, a hidden island that humans can't get to, or underground, like you see in, I don't know, is it Ice Age 3? And this image does confirm it. The Hidden World is likely to be underground, lit up by glowing crystals and glowworms that you can see are scattered across the roof of it. It's also going to be filled with ancient, strange life forms that we can see down at the bottom. There also seem to be shafts of light shining down from the ceiling, saying that the Hidden World may be close to the surface, but we don't know where. We can't know for sure. The stalactites hanging from the ceiling could have been formed by lava. That may make sense given the volcanic area that Berk is placed around. What is notable though is that in the books, the dragons go away to what is only really described as the northern oceans to hide from the humans. And in this promotional image, we do see some things that look like sea anemones down at the bottom, which could suggest that it is underwater, but I personally don't think it's that likely given that most dragons can't swim underwater, and also we see Hiccup standing there, which would be a little bit odd, but who knows. Now, one thing that we could possibly infer from the poster is that it confirms our theory that one option is that Toothless will go away to the far corners of the world, to where Night Furies may have come from, but in the context of what we know about the third movie now, I think it's more likely that Toothless will find this new mate inside the Hidden World. This is given that the White Night Fury is perched inside this glowing cavern, this hidden world. But more importantly, we can see in the background of the poster that there are dragons flying about. It's hard to make out their species, but I'm thinking there's at least some hideous zipplebacks, some deadly nadders, monstrous nightmares, the usual stock. What we can't know is whether there will already be dragons in the Hidden World, or whether these dragons are being led there by Toothless as we suspect he might at the end. Though, if there are dragons already living in this environment, then what's really cool is that we will probably see a whole bunch of new species of dragon that have adapted to this evolutionary niche. I personally think it's quite likely that there will be a whole community of dragons inside this hidden world already, which I am really excited to see. Kind of like Vulca's Mount. I really do just love how it looks. It's going to be gorgeous and cinematically stunning, and I just know that DreamWorks will do as good a job with this as they have with the last two movies. And now, of course, yes, we will turn to the thing that we have all been waiting to discuss. The White Night Fury. Light Fury? White Fury? Snow Fury? Sugar Fury? Other mysterious white powder that I can't name in a video watched by Kids Fury? Tell me what you think it should be called down in the comments below. And I do think she's designed really nicely. And we do know that she is a she because she's described as an elusive Night Fury mate in the official synopsis. So Night Fury babies, maybe? It's really great to see the tiny little differences between them. A smaller crown atop of the head, a shorter mouth, smoother skin, whereas Toothless has some scars from all the battles that he's been in, crystal clear blue eyes, shorter and more refined claws, a glittery sheen across her scales. She looks pristine, and I cannot wait to see how they sort of bring her to life during the film. And thank you for the dozens and dozens and dozens of comments reminding me that I did make a video about White Night Furies a long time ago. Very, very enlightening, thank you. Now, while I do love how she looks, it does raise a couple of questions about why she is white. Now, Night Furies are dark coloured because it helps them blend in, it helps them camouflage, both when they're hunting their prey and when they're avoiding predators. If a Night Fury isn't dark, then it becomes a lot harder for them to hunt during the night, or during dawn and dusk. Their prey will more easily see them, and so will their enemies. Night Furies are crepuscular, meaning they come out at dawn and dusk rather than the bright of day. Being pure white makes that a lot more difficult. And if she is an albino, then we do have to wonder how she survived, because unfortunately, albino creatures tend to be plagued by health problems for much of their life. So it may have made more sense from what we've known of Night Furies before for her to be a darker colour, maybe a green or a blue, but that's just me. Though there is one other explanation for her possibly being white, which is that when a species spends a lot of time underground, they can lose pigmentation in their skin, becoming creamy or white, and we do know that the hidden world is underground. We can see it in the poster. It's got, this unnatural light with the crystals rather than natural sunlight. Well, that may explain why she's turned white, but I really can't know for sure. We'd have to see with the trailer that's going to come out soon enough. Also, creatures that often stay underground long enough for them to turn white also commonly have problems with being blind, so who knows. And the second thing that we need to talk about are the official images released by DreamWorks of the new designs for the characters, and they look amazing. Starting with Hiccup, he's obviously older, more mature, but his armor, I absolutely love it. The Night Fury pattern is just perfect. It's gorgeous, and we can actually see a lot more of it in the poster. It appears that he has something of a knife in his peg leg now, though maybe that's just a shadow. It might be a weapon, but the helmet in his hands that we can see him holding is also new. It has deeper ridges along the helm and a red pattern that it didn't have in the second movie. Astrid, in a similar fashion, has armor modeled after the pattern of her deadly nadder, Stormfly. Fishlegs actually has one of the more interesting character redesigns. He has this strange helmet suit thing modeled after the mouth of a Gronkle, and a moustache. Yes, a moustache. The community is heavily divided over whether or not it looks good or terrifying. But he's also got a baby Gronkle. You're a baby. My heart, Spyro, it hurts. Which may have come from Meatlug giving birth, which is really cute. And on a side note, I actually really like that they're playing up the motherliness aspect of Fishleg's character. I think that's a good kind of part for him to play in the group. And finally, Snotlout. He has his armor modeled after the sharper, more angular, and vividly colored look of his monstrous nightmare, Hookfang. He also has a hint of upper lip hair of that guy who wants to grow a mustache, but he can't, so good for him. Despite the fact I would clearly look fantastic with a beard, my girlfriend doesn't want me growing one. And there are also pictures of Roughnut and Toughnut, who in a similar fashion have a green, yellow, and orange patterned armor to match their hideous zippleback. And finally, the score. And this is actually the most interesting part of this discussion for me, because there's just so much to unpack and theorize about. I was choosing between making this video super long and having a separate video, but I felt it would sort of be disconnected from the discussion, and I really wanted to get it out before the trailer comes out in a few days. Now, there might be sort of spoilers for the story, but I couldn't verify 100% that this was truly the score for the third movie, so take everything I say with a slight grain of salt. But there are a number of clues to suggest that it definitely is true. Notably, the first track of the story is called There Were Dragons, an ominous title if I've ever heard one, and it's a song name that fits perfectly with how we know that the story will end, from discussions with the directors and writers. The opening line of the book series, interestingly enough, is "There were dragons when I was a boy," and we know from the director of the film how the story is likely to end. I think the first film of the third movie is going to be a solemn shot of all of the dragons, beautifully flying, swimming, and so on all around Hiccup's dragon utopia. And the second song of the story is called The Chief's Burdens, and this really fits with the overarching story of the series, which is Toothless coming to terms with the leadership that has been thrust upon him, especially since the death of his father, Stoic, during the second film, as well as wanting and trying to balance his life with Toothless as a free dragon rider at the same time. It talks about it quite explicitly in the second film.
But I've decided...
To make you chief!
It's not me, Astrid.
In the second scene, I think we'll see Hiccup leading the town, that his people love him, but that he's worn and that he misses the time that he used to be able to spend with Toothless. Now the third song is called Roughnut's Dilemma. Now I don't know quite what this could be referring to, but because it's so early on in the story, it might just be a more light-hearted scene. Otherwise, what tough decision do you think that Roughnut might have to make in the third movie? Possibly something to do with Eret and staying a dragon rider. The next song after that is called The Summit, and this is probably going to be a summit of chiefs in the area, and we do know from the second film that they happened every so often. We saw a scene of it. If we pair this with the next song though, No More Treaties, then we can theorize that this summit goes badly wrong, and there is a huge disagreement between the chiefs that might be gathered there. I'm not sure what the summit will be about, but given that the story overall is about the breakdown of the relationship between dragons and humans, it might have something to do with that Hiccup wants to protect and preserve the dragons, and some of the other humans don't. Now whatever happens around this next song, I am really excited to see, because it's called Lightning and Death. It's not clear what this is going to be referring to, but let me remind you of the original description of the Night Furies in the first film.
Night Fury. The unholy offspring of lightning and death itself.
On the one hand, this may mean that we see Toothless at full power, that he terrifies someone, or perhaps even injures them, and that could be part of the triggering for this war that we'll see throughout the third movie. Or, and this would be a cool twist, that this new White Night Fury that we meet during the third movie hurts someone just the same. And we do know that she's described as wild, and we don't know how aggressive wild Night Furies might be. Who's to say that she couldn't hurt someone? Or that there would be some misunderstanding that led to that? The song after that clearly takes place with Volker and is called The Dancing and the Dreaming, which you'll remember from the second movie.
Oh, I love this one.
Now this scene will probably take the story down a beat, a slower paced part of the story, after we've just had this action-packed scene at the summit. After all, we didn't really get to see Volker processing the loss of her husband. She didn't really get a chance to grieve that much. Maybe we'll see that sort of reverberations of that particular event in this scene during the third movie. Songs 8 to 9 and 10 definitely need to be read together. These include The Armada Approaches, Burke Under Siege, and Fire and Blood. Not that kind of fire and blood. So we know that Burke will be assaulted in the first half of the movie, probably by our villain that we talked about in this video, Grimmel the Grizzly. The fact that it has 3 songs to tell it means this is probably going to be a lengthy scene, but it's song 11 that really tells us what happens during this battle. What is at stake? The song is called Adieu Snotlout, and this may well be a reference to Book Snotlout, who isn't quite the same as the one from the films, but spoilers, he sacrifices himself to save Hiccup despite their rivalry. And while the characters definitely aren't the same, the directors have definitely spoken about how they're going to be drawing a lot more from the books than they had for the previous films. And in the books, Hiccup later on remembers Snotlout's sacrifice and saying, "Adieu, Snotlout. I could not have done this without you." This may be the soundtrack for Snotlout's death. After that, the song was called Wrath of the Alphas. Now, while Toothless is an alpha, we know that each dragon pack has its own alpha as well, meaning it might be a group of them, otherwise we might be introduced to a new alpha. We have been in previous films, so why not for the third one? I'm really not sure what it's going to be referring to here. We'll just have to see in the third movie. But it's this next song that will be really capturing the heart of the true conflict of the story. It's called Between Two Worlds. Hiccup and Toothless are both going to have to choose between the dragon world and the human world. And that is going to be a hard scene to watch. I Just know it. In kind of a physical sense, this world is going to be Burke versus this crystalline cavern hidden world that we can see in the promotional poster, where the dragons may well vanish to at the end of the film. But at its heart, this story is going to be about Hiccup and Toothless realizing that they have to choose between being dragon and rider and the world of their own kind, who each need leaders. Track 14 is called We Are One. Now, this could be referring to Toothless and Hiccup being one, kind of dragon and rider, as is a motif throughout the series, or it might be Toothless and his new white Night Fury babe. Really don't know, and we can't draw too much from it, but it leads into a song called The Final Flight, which, whew, that is gonna bring a tear to the eye, or like 50 of them. Of course, if one clone can't take watching this film, then we just kill it and bring in a new one. After all, if they don't serve a purpose, then do they really deserve to live? And I think these songs will also all be connected to the one after that, which is called My Best Friend, which would definitely be talking about the two of them, about Hiccup and Toothless. They are best friends. The 17th track is called To the Fallen, which is an interesting title. It may include Snotlout, as we talked about before, he may die earlier on in the film, but given that there is already a song dedicated to saying goodbye to him, this title implies, at least to me, that another character may die in the finale of the series. Who? Well, we can't know. Who do you think will die? Let me know down in the comments below. But this will be a sad scene when they remember all of those they have lost in their fight against Grimmel the Grizzly, and the fight that would lead the dragons to go into this hidden world. And this battle is going to have to be so devastating that Hiccup and Toothless realize dragons can't stay here, that humans and dragons can't coexist just yet. They need to go into hiding. That's how devastating this battle is going to have to be. A really sad theory of mine is that the Fallen described in this soundtrack are going to be a lot of dragons. After all, what better reason would they have to go into hiding than losing a lot of their kind? It would be the only way for Toothless to realize we have to go. And finally, track 18 reprises There Were Dragons When I Was a Boy, finally bringing us full circle to where we knew the story was going to end all along, and the first line of the How to Drain Your Dragon stories. This song will possibly describe the dragons heading underground, Toothless with his new mate, and Hiccup staying as the chief of his tribe, Burke, remembering the days when there were dragons. This may actually lead to a flash forward in time, hence why he is remembering the time when he was a boy, when he was young. And we may see that he and Astrid have kids as well, to mimic Toothless and his mate having Night Fury babies as well. And lastly, the final track is called Dragons Again. Now this can be interpreted in a number of ways, but personally I feel that the likely reason it's called that is that after the dragons have gone away, the movie will end on a hopeful note that one day the dragons will return. So that we don't just have this gut-wrenching, heartbreaking ending with Toothless and Hiccup splitting apart, that we actually have some hope for the future. But that is all from me. I am exhausted and I still have to edit this video. Oh, and Night Skrill art. Last How to Train Dragon video, I asked you what you felt a blend between a Night Fury and a Skrill would have looked like, and you sent in dozens of entries. Thank you so much to all of you who sent in your entries, and the one I am choosing to feature tonight was done by Cryomancer Hyozen, which looks like this. Pretty amazing. It was really cool. Oh, and there's a link to his DeviantArt down in the comments below. But the question remains, what do you think of the poster, the score, and the art of the characters? And question of the day, which is your favorite season of the year? I personally prefer autumn because I like rain and cold. I know I'm depressing. If you love Supreme Leader Mishka and you would like to support the channel, then there is a link to my Patreon down in the description below. You can come join our Patreon only Discord where we talk about How to Train Dragon and stuff for just like $1 a month. And you're free to ask me questions anytime you like that hopefully I can get to. Link to that down below. And in the meantime, stay nerdy, Subfuries, and I'll see you in the future.